start with really quickly. Does anybody in the room not know what Blender is? I think we have a room full of experts, but
experts in court.
that's a no, you don't know, or no, you don't need the intro.
I'm not an expert.
Okay. Have you ever seen Blender?
Oh yeah.
Okay, great. You use it. Great. Okay. So in our larger meetings, sometimes we get 25, 30 people in a room, and you'd be surprised. There's always like one or two people that have just never seen the package. So this is usually where we bust it out and show it and demonstrate it. But it sounds like we're all kind of experts here. So I'm going to move on to what is World Blender Day. So sorry, let me get this right. Blender World Meetup Day, or wow, that's actually backwards. It's actually World Blender Meetup Day, which is WBMD, is a single calendar day where all the user groups in the different cities around the world come online at the same day, and everybody schedules at whatever time is convenient for them. We don't try and dictate who meets when. So there's a lot of overlap, as you can imagine. So on the West Coast here alone, we have Los Angeles, San Francisco, Portland, Vancouver. We're all coming on the West Coast. So what we tried to do is give each group an hour or more slot, between 30 minutes to 90 minutes. LA's got 30 minutes or 60 minutes today, and we're recording the whole thing. So the idea is that there's a lot of really great presentation material that happens every time somebody throws a local user group meeting, and we want to make that more accessible to people, right? So not everybody universally records. So we have funded a web conference software package called Zoom, and we're basically recording all these, and then we'll have the massive job of editing 18 hours of recordings, and then we're going to stick it up on YouTube basically for people to watch and create some lasting legacy. So it follows the sun, so it actually starts in Melbourne, Australia, and then rolls across to, it's kind of weird. Amsterdam and Dublin like to have their meetings in the evening, so it actually comes over here to LA. I guess Amsterdam for the Blender Institute, and then we had Spain. Actually, he's not even on here. We had Oscar Villar from Spain, Oliver Villar from Spain, and then Norway, Stanford, Raleigh, Durham, Minneapolis, San Francisco, Vancouver, and Portland is kind of closing up the show. We also have some folks from different companies that are joining, and yeah, I can't wait to actually go back and listen to the presentations that were happening while I was sleeping. So, anybody have any questions on that? No? All right, so we're a small group today. We're 2, 4, 6, 8, we're under 10 people, so let's keep it interactive. If you guys have questions while people are presenting, just stick up your hand. All right, so I'm gonna keep it moving right along. So Joel?
There we go. All right, and I'll do this little fancy presentation button. Okay, cool. Hello, everybody. Worldwide, this is the beginning of our presentation. My name is Joel Gerlich, and this is my cohort, Cobalt.
Hello.
He's a much cooler, much better looking guy than me, so unfortunately you guys have to stare at me for the next little bit, but he's here to answer questions and all that stuff. Yeah, it's really an honor to be here with everybody here in LA and around the world, presenting on a topic which is I think a lot of people have an interest in, and that is virtual reality. Specifically for us, we're gonna be throwing around a lot of buzzwords around here. Nobody in the VR industry really knows what anything's supposed to be called yet, but we're specifically gonna be talking about VR 360, and that is pre-rendered videos, as opposed to virtual reality in a gaming sense where you're able to walk around the room or whatever else the different stuff is. Does my arrow keys work? They do. Fantastic. So who are we? We are Studio 229. We're formerly a visual effects house. That's what we came to Los Angeles to start, was to do visual. I'm gonna keep saying virtual reality, to do visual effects. But we recently, and this is a little bit of our story, have kind of switched over into virtual reality. One of our core features of our business is cloud-based artists. So we've already worked with artists who are working around the world for us. That's one of the business models that we really adopted, especially because when we initially started the company, I was here in Los Angeles, Cobalt was in Tennessee, and we had to find a way to work together. So purely by necessity, we built a cloud-based workflow. And that's now actually the core part of our business. We're able to bring people from all around the world. Blender is our core. So we really believe in Blender. That's how Cobalt and I met about 10 years ago or longer. Oh, it's been a while. In a Blender users group in Chattanooga, Tennessee, the one that I started. And that is now it's kind of our honor to be able to take the legacy of Blender and to bring it here to Los Angeles and have it be a primary part of our production pipeline. And then we just have worked for a bunch of different clients. But I'm going to move on. So we discover VR. So like I said, we started in visual effects. That was kind of our big thing. We wanted to be a part of kind of creating this really exciting new worlds. And we thought that kind of integrating visual effects with film footage and all that stuff for commercials and all that would be the way that we do it. But we discovered VR, and that kind of threw a big wrench into those plans. Our first interaction with VR was in a Google Cardboard, which of those of you guys who don't know what that is, wait, did we bring one? Yeah, he can go get one. Do you have one with you? Rock and roll. So yeah, Google Cardboard, perfect. Oh, you have the same one that we do, I think. Yeah, so it's just this. And basically, it's just a small piece of cardboard that's folded into a box, and you're able to stick your phone inside. I didn't really need to demo this, but you stick your phone inside here, and then you're able to put it up and look around, and all of a sudden you're taking what is a consumer device, thank you, that you have around with you and able to interact with virtual reality. So when we did it, we did our first trial with using a virtual reality experience by a company called Verse, and we put it on. It was like, wow, this is amazing. I mean, it was super low resolution. It wasn't very visually, wow, this is impressive. But the fact that we as a viewer could look anywhere we wanted to and observe an entire world really was a game changer for us. So we did an early experimentation with VR and Blender. That was one of the things that I was trying to figure out, hey, how easy would it be to actually create virtual reality content inside of Blender? And as you can see, this little fancy cube thing was actually the first frame that I rendered out in virtual reality. And for those of you guys, it's kind of a little bit hard to see with the presentation thing on there. But it's basically, Blender has an ability to render out VR by using what's called equirectangular projection. And if you think about the way that a map of the world is, you put a map of the world, well, it's obviously representing a sphere. But the map is an unflattened version of that sphere in a sense. And so that's in the sense what Blender does when you're using that equirectangular projection, is it's taking 360 degrees and unwrapping it into a single image. And so that's where then, as soon as I showed off Cobalt, it's like, wow, this is something we could do. That's when we decided to convert CheerioCraft. So CheerioCraft was a project that we did for General Mills, where we basically took the principles of Minecraft, but we rebuilt everything using Cheerios. And that was a really big project for us. It actually aired nationally, and it was a pretty, we think, is one of the more visually interesting things that we've done. And the ability to turn it into VR is a great candidate because it was procedurally built. Kind of a world first method, so it was a perfect candidate. Cobalt built everything using particle system in Blender. The island was kind of procedurally created. And so it allowed us to really adapt it into a virtual reality scene quite easily by literally just changing the properties of the camera. And all of a sudden we went from a kind of a 2D version to a virtual reality version. And then we sent it off. It was our first VR experience. Early viewers loved it. We showed people just using our Google Cardboard, and people were so excited. They're like, wow, we want to be a part of this world, actually. We wish that we could go to this island where everything was made out of Cheerios. And that's when we realized this might be the next step for our company. So a quick example, this is one of the frames from the sunrise animation of the CheerioCraft scene that aired on TV. And then this actually here is the conversion of it into virtual reality. So you can see the area where the sun is and the mountain and all that scape. That's just one direction. And this is an unwrapped version where now you're looking at a flattened version of a 360-degree sphere. And it was really amazing to be able to really quickly just simply adjust this. So that is what led us to Lego Arctic Survivor. And so really kind of the case study for you guys that we're kind of showing off today is what we did for Lego when we did the Arctic Survivor VR experience. And this hasn't been released, by the way. This isn't something that you can just go download. It's in Lego's hands now. we hear they're really excited about it. We're waiting to find out for sure what their next steps are, but we wanted to showcase to you guys this is how it kind of works. So we desired kind of a motivation for the experience, for the VR experience. We didn't want it to be just a gimmick. Sometimes you have a VR experience where it's just a little quick thing that you do, and wow, that was interesting, but it doesn't necessarily add to the picture. We wanted to, from the ground up, build in a VR experience that actually expanded upon the world or expanded upon the characters. So we talked for a while about how we could do that. And that's when Cobalt had the idea of a kind of a parallel storyline. And so the gag that we ran with for the Lego experience was in our framed sequence, as we call it, our 2D version. We would have this guy, his name is Kane Wilder, and he is a hardcore Arctic survivor guy using Lego's new Arctic sets, and it was really cool. And basically the whole A sequence would be showcasing how hardcore of a dude this was. In the VR experience though, you would put on the VR goggles and you would look forward and you would see him doing his thing, but then you'd turn around and you'd see an entire Lego production crew. And the whole joke was that it was actually, they were just filming for a movie. And he really wasn't that hardcore of a guy. It was all just a part of the setup. And so that became really the foundation of let's make the VR experience reveal something that people just watching the standard sequence wouldn't be able to see. Along with that though, there was the realization that we would need to build a whole Lego world. Unlike, and we'll talk about this in a moment, with your standard setup, when you're just doing your CG scene, all you need is whatever the camera sees. But here, one of the challenges of the VR sequence was that not only did we have to build for that, but we also had to make it so that anybody watching this could look anywhere they want and it would look correct. It's not like parts would be missing or things would break apart. Which leads us into ASVR's Arctic Survivor VR, just for you guys. Designing a world. Was there a question, or oh, somebody was, hello. That's being cut off. I'm trying to remember what I said. Cobalt's work, building the world. I was using kind of a pretty complicated product system. Oh, Sterling.
Yeah, you know what, let me see if we can fix this first. Let's do that.
Oh, hey.
And then let's do, I think it's like, there you go.
Oh, look at that. Perfect.
We'll just
That's awesome. So much better. For you guys watching online, you're missing it out. The projector is glitching and everything's like green and cool. It's awesome.
I'm like afraid
it's a little Matrix version. Okay, so here I can see much better. Thank you. Cobalt's work building the world using complicated particle systems. If we get time for a Q&A, he can explain it really well. You can see here is just a rendered image of one of the tests that he did of what would it look like to procedurally build this world using Lego bricks. But there's some pretty severe asset linking limitations, especially for particles. Yeah, that drove the need for some pretty creative solutions. And he is an amazing guy and spent a lot of work trying to make sure that all of this stuff built out correctly. I guess I need to click on this again to get it to go. All right, sweet. So then we used Mecha Bricks, which is just an online Lego building platform using just web-based tools. But they had a great Blender conversion tool, and that became kind of the early foundation for really building this world. If it wasn't for Mecha Bricks, we wouldn't have had kind of the puzzle pieces that we could start bringing stuff into Blender. So here's just a couple images I'll run through real quick. This is a huge canyon face made out of Lego bricks. If you guys know how big a Lego brick is, this is very large, and it's a little bit hard to see here, but if you were to zoom all the way in on this image, you'd see each individual piece is a Lego brick. And then here's just a couple of images. They look terrible on this poor projector, but you can see this is Cobalt's work building the materials to make stuff look as accurate to a kind of a Lego brick as possible. And then he built these different plates, these, what are they, 16 by 16 or something like that? 16 by 16 plates that had a little bit of variation in them. And then these 16 by 16 plates then became these huge plates, which were then we used to build kind of the foundation of the world. And then these huge plates all when kind of linked together, here's an early test render of kind of one of the Arctic parts, would then create the whole floor foundation for this entire world, which would then of course become one of the scenes that's rendered out here. You can see 487 million vertices in this scene. Now, this just is a huge testament to how efficient Blender has gotten, especially using linked libraries, that not only were we able to move around in the OpenGL viewport in a decent sort of way, but also the render times were fairly good, despite the fact that we're pumping so much information in terms of geometry down the pipe. So, as we are animating the world, I'll play this thing. You guys are all going to watch this and not listen to me, but that's okay. It's kind of cool. So this is going to show a little bit of the progression between shot from start to finish. I'm going to talk anyways. So we kind of focused first on the frame sequence animation, and that was, we knew if we got the frame sequence of the 2D non-VR version correct, then we would be able to adapt it pretty easily to virtual reality. So we focused in terms of our animator, Kale, who is in Brazil, amazing guy. He did all the animation for us. And he really, we told him, let's just focus on getting this right. So once the characters and the cameras were set, the frame sequence was locked, and that really became the foundation then for what we were going to use to adapt to VR. So then we would take that frame sequence and we would expand it, including adding in all the additional characters that were from for the virtual reality version. And we really had this persistent world animation philosophy. And that was that if you are watching this in VR, anywhere you look, you have to be able to see a live scene. You can't just have characters frozen because nobody's looking at them. We had the possibility that anybody at any time in this VR sequence could be looking at one particular spot, which meant that we had to plan the animation accordingly so that everything was able to look right. So this is ASVR animating the world polar bear attack. I want to show this to you guys. I don't know if there's audio that's going to come out of this computer. Sterling ran away. But you can see this is going to show you guys a top-down view and a view from one of the cameras of what it was like. In this particular scene, we had a bunch of polar bears come and attack the film crew. And so you can see from the top down all the animation that's required. I want to highlight that this little spot here, this is where the VR camera is. So if you imagine yourself down at this level, looking around in 360 degrees, this is what it would be. All this stuff here. Oh yeah, look at this. I just won't talk, it's cool. So again, mad props to our animator Kale when we sent him the scene and said, yeah, we need a polar bear attack, many polar bears attacking all at once. You missed it, Sterling, it was so cool. He basically then had to think through how are all these characters interacting, how the polar bear's moving, knocking over items, all that stuff, knowing, again, that at any time a user could be looking in any specific direction and it had to feel real. So mad props to him for getting this done. Okay. Rendering the world, a couple of things for you guys. Equirectangular mapping is the same resolution, but it's a lot more information. So if you think about a 2K image, if you're rendering just a standard camera, you're looking at 2,000 pixels. Well, with equirectangular, you're still looking at the same amount of pixels. It's not like the resolution is increased, but really what's being displayed in those pixels is now wrapping 360 degrees in a circle. So it means that computationally speaking, it's pulling over a lot more information from a cycles perspective than just using a standard camera. And it uses magic. I mean, as much as I've dug into how all this stuff works, just absolute magic. So we rendered out a 2:1 aspect ratio is the crucial key for VR. It has to be 2 wide by 1 tall, regardless of what the resolution is. Then we rendered out, because this is really a pitch to Lego to show them the possibilities of VR. We only rendered it out in 2K at 24 frames per second and mono in terms of just having one eye. And so we could have increased that. Our desired specs would be 4K, 60 frames per second in stereo.
I don't mean to interrupt real quick. Yeah. It looks like there's a little bit of feedback coming from some of the panelists. Just make sure you're all muted. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you. Yeah, probably the hotel door too. So again, one of the interesting things about VR is if you think about having a headset and you're looking around, the refresh rate, in a sense, of the ability of moving your head back and forth could be very high frame rate. And if the video doesn't match at least close to that speed, then what happens is you get stuttery video, but a smooth motion as you look around. It's a really kind of an odd technical limitation, but anyways, for us, that was just what we wanted to do. HDRI lighting was a perfect fit for us, obviously because a lot of that is naturally in kind of that spherical map anyways, and it allowed us to create a lot of really rich and really deep lighting. But of course, Lego is everything is very kind of saturated and kind of cartoonish. And so we kind of ran into a little bit of an issue of wanting to have the rich depth of HDRI, but not displaying an HDR image with realistic clouds and all that stuff. So Cobalt found a workaway using the camera rays and cycles to be able to display a nice smooth blue gradient, as you can see in some of those images, but still use the HDRI lighting. And then plug for Render Street, those guys, they saved our butts. I won't read that word out loud. But they really worked with us during this process so that we knew that we were going to be sending out a huge amount of work with a lot of frames. The VR scenes were about 15 seconds per sequence. And so that was a lot of frames, and they really just did a great job of making sure, even using, sometimes we had 300 or so render nodes per shot rendering these shots out for us, and they got it back to us in an amazing time. So hardcore plug for them, they're amazing. Okay, so I'll show you guys these real quick, the final sequences, so that you can see. This here is our A sequence. So this would be the thing that Lego would upload to their YouTube page.
Life in the Arctic is all about survival. You have to be fast. You have to be strong. You have to know how to track polar bears. You have to be cave wilder.
So again, a lot of the stuff, this was kind of the pitch for Lego. It's not like we're trying to develop an entirely well thought out storyline, but this is kind of a bit of the kind of the presence behind it. One of the things we wanted to do though was tease the VR. So this is our VR teaser sequence. So we wanted to get people pretty excited about it. Oh, thank you. To you, Cole. We also, as you can see, we were using the character to model what we wanted people to do if they're using Google Cardboard and by looking around. So you guys want to see the VR sequence? Yeah. It's a little less rocky than we portrayed in the trailer. So here we're just going to be using YouTube 360. Again, this is nowhere near what it's like if you're wearing Google Cardboard at least, or Gear VR. For some of you guys here, we actually brought the gear if you guys want to try it out. It's so much more amazing. But I'll just kind of play it through for you here. So you can see here basically, the quality, this is garbage. You get the idea that basically here you're able to look around and really observe anything that you want to at this time. So he gets launched. And our joke here is you can see this little Lego drone, and it's the thing that was filming him during the A sequence. Here's the polar bear attack. You can see there's a whole crew all kind of sitting around here. The director's like, what's going on? Here's kind of our joke that this mountaintop experience is really filmed on a green screen in a studio. So you can see there's a whole, the director throws it. This is one of my favorites. So you can see here he's throwing his fish around, but really all the crew is having a big party back at the base camp. They're all sitting there dancing. So, and then we have kind of our little ending credits, which is kind of cool because you can look around and see all the different credits and stuff that was kind of there. So basically, you know, this was really kind of our pitch to Legos. This is the capabilities. This is kind of what we can do. I might need to move this guy again to get to the.
Hit the little far left minimize.
Let's see what happens if I do that. There we go. Cool. Okay. And here's just one of the assets from the dog sled and all that stuff. So Blender 360 VR. How am I doing on time? Cool.
You're good.
So the benefits. It's incredibly easy to do equirectangular 360 videos in Blender. Mad props to everybody who kind of put that stuff together. It's literally one click. You can convert your camera from a traditional camera into a 360, especially equirectangular.
Technically two.
It might be 2 clicks. Yeah, click to panoramic and then change it to equirectangular. So close. Well, I guess that's it. No more to say after that. It works great with compositing nodes and plugins. So Blender's, a lot of the compositing nodes, all the stuff that you guys are familiar with already works and can already be implemented kind of into your workflow. It's not a lot to think. Anything that you're just normally using
just
in
the
Blender,
main branch right
in the
now.
main branch, all your stuff. Again, there's nothing really that VR or the 360 VR particularly breaks in terms of the plugins. It's possible there may be some really specialized plugins, particularly in compositing, that may or may not work, but we haven't run into anything yet. It really makes for a whole different interaction. And that is that when you're able to put a viewer, kind of like what you guys saw, even just with YouTube 360, when you are able to put a viewer inside of the world instead of just watching it on a phone or a TV, it's a whole different experience. And one of the things that's cool, we obviously didn't do this, but we could have gone and played back the video I just showed you guys in VR, and everywhere we weren't looking, all we'd have to do is look the opposite direction and you'd see something new. Especially in like the polar bear sequence, Kale did such an amazing job that really there's times when I'm watching it and I notice a little thing that I haven't seen before, and I've been working on it for a while. So it's, yeah, a whole different way for users to interact with your viewer. And then CG VR is currently much better than live action VR, and that's really just a lot of hardware limitations right now for people trying to do live action using cameras and stitching and all of that stuff. Even with the advances, still people are trying to figure it out. But particularly, we can do CG VR right now. Obviously, we've done it. There are limitations. There's kind of broken stereo, doesn't work right now. Mad shout out to Dalai Falinto. I don't know if I pronounced his name yet. Another Brazilian guy. He is so cool. If you guys haven't, his work is incredible. He's built spherical stereo, and that's basically which enables equirectangular stereo. I won't get into technically why it doesn't work just using normal on the multi-view in Blender. But right now there are just limitations, and so he's amazing. We're actually going to hopefully work with him and get that finished. But again, it's not in the main branch of Blender. You have to use a special build for it. It is render intensive and costly, especially at 4K 60 frames per second. I mean, 4K 60 frames per second is going to be expensive, period. So it's not like it's that much of a difference. But especially as you're considering you're really wrapping a lot of information into these renders, it's certainly much more expensive. You can't, obviously the lower quality you use as well, the blurrier the image and the less VR it's going to be. So we kind of have to set the standard high in these early days of VR, and that's kind of costly. It's difficult to composite 2D assets into 360 VR. So if you're trying to do stuff in After Effects or whatever and trying to put it in there just purely because of the way that things are wrapped, it's not like you can just slap stuff on there. It'll look weird. You'd have to use some specialized software tools to try and get things to composite in there correctly. And I say no interaction, kind of. Obviously for 360 video, again, the distinction between this and a game engine is you're stuck in one spot looking around. And eventually people might get tired of that. But for me, actually, I still think there's a huge amount of interaction and a huge amount of possibilities right now at this stage, primarily because you're giving users a choice of what they can look at. If you are normally just rendering out a video, a 60-second long video, that's it. You watch it once, you watch it again, it's the same experience. But here, somebody can replay through this thing several times and notice, yeah, question.
Well, an aesthetic question, not the last.
Yeah.
So it looks to me, the VR looks like it's immersive theater, where the theater going around you.
Right.
So did you work out with the animator how, when some piece of action's here, and there's another piece of action over here, what would get the audience to direct their attention behind them?
Right.
Did you work out
Yeah.
blocking?
Right. Yeah, it's a great question. Some of the things actually that we're working on kind of in development as our studio is kind of as from a directing standpoint, being able to choose in a sense where people look at, primarily kind of where the camera actually starts at the beginning of the scene. The biggest way is audio cues. For example, if somebody was looking forward and only was like at the polar bear attack sequence and all they were looking at was the director and the camera crew, they wouldn't notice if there was no audio cues that there was a polar bear attack going on behind them. They might just see this whole scene as normal. So what we use is a lot of audio cues. Even if you think about the first shot with the helicopter coming by, in positional audio, you can hear the helicopter, and that makes you, wait, what am I missing? And then you'll turn around and you'll look at it. And so audio right now is really by far one of the most helpful ways to get people to kind of look around. But there always is the chance that the thing that you need somebody to see, they're going to miss because they're not looking in that direction. So there are cues that you can use to make it obvious. Or makes everything else so boring that they're going to be looking around until they notice whatever the action is. Including some of the things that we're working on as well as a company to make sure videos can hold until you're looking at the right thing. But yeah, it is right now, just in terms of just immersive theater, it is a risk that people will miss the thing that you need. So approaching it from building more of a looking at the world standpoint instead of you need this particular piece, and if you don't get it, you're going to miss everything.
Just a quick follow-up.
Yeah.
Do you have any experience in theater?
Well, we started out kind of as a film and VFX company, and that was really our, obviously in college and stuff, we were doing a lot of that film work and building some of that. But really, for the CG stuff, you are using some theatrics, especially from an animation standpoint. But again, Kale, that Brazilian guy, he's amazing. I think he might be listening in on this.
Also, just wanted to clarify some things. So for animating in a 360 environment, you can also use compositional cues and stuff from your characters and stuff to point action and direction towards another part of the scene that would then cause the viewer to continue to look, that way. It follows the action farther around the viewer. And then obviously Joel said audio, that is a huge important factor. And then also just from the original, when you're thinking about your animation, you want to be planning in a 360 degree from the beginning kind of thing to get action to kind of revolve around the viewer.
Awesome. Thanks, Phil. Okay. We're almost done, guys. Thanks for sticking through with us.
No, you have plenty of time.
So we believe Blender should prioritize and promote 360 VR. Obviously, everybody at Blender is doing such an incredible job at looking at all these different features of Blender, and it's grown so much, especially in the last 10, 12 years that we've been using it. But we really believe that this is a huge opportunity for Blender. It's because it's an open market with no clear contenders. From the other software suites that we looked into, it's actually pretty difficult to enable kind of a VR workflow, whereas Blender makes it so easy. And we really believe that this could be an opportunity for a lot of different Blender artists to be able to create compelling VR content. I send out there opportunities for artists in the new field. It does, though, need support from the developers and the Blender Foundation. It's really close. Honestly, it's not going to take that much more to be able to really have a great VR workflow or VR 360 workflow in Blender. Again, Delai's potential Rift integrations is also a really good thing he's working on. We've actually tried it using the Oculus Rift to be able to look at scenes in VR. And even just some of his work to finish up a little bit of the limitations with spherical stereo to get them ready to go. Because again, when you render things out in 3D, it's much more of a compelling view than just seeing it in 2D. But yeah, we really believe that this could be a place where Blender can continue to set itself apart from the competition by enabling an easy access and even promoting a way for artists to get involved in 360 VR without that much additional work. Finally, us in VR, we really believe VR or bust is kind of our mentality. We've set aside everything kind of relating to VFX. We've talked to a lot of people here in LA who are industry leaders in the field, and we're working with them, especially showcasing the stuff we've done for Lego. We really believe that this is the future for our company, and we're kind of like, let's do this. If we don't do it, then okay, we're going to switch our majors to pottery or whatever. And then, yeah, we have to work ahead of the curve. Shameless plug, we are building our team. So if you guys are interested, especially artists, and you want to kind of get involved with what we're doing in VR, we really invite you guys to be a part of it. And finally, this is Kane Wilder, and he says, thanks for your time. He's using a Google Cardboard, and he's a cool dude. So thank you guys so much. Honestly, you guys are amazing. Thanks for the time. And you guys can clap now. Go ahead. For you LA guys here, we do have the gear that we can totally show off to you guys, and so you can see what it looks like. It's pretty fun. So awesome. Any questions?
Yeah, picking up on Cobalt's point about view of thinking outside the box with a full 360, does that ever get reflected in your scripts?
Yeah.
Repeat the question.
Oh yeah. So the question was, as we're preparing for VR in terms of creating the content, is knowing that there's going to be 360 degrees interaction, do we need to write that into kind of our script writing process? And yeah, it definitely, we had to think about that from the very beginning. This is how we're going to create the action specifically in VR. This is what's going to be occurring during these things. We took kind of the foundation of the framed sequence, we're calling it, and expanded that into then just adding additional action. Really is kind of our priority. But from a script writing standpoint, yeah, you're gonna have to know what's occurring, what's going on at different times. It's a little bit different way of thinking things. Again, you could easily use by just thinking, oh, if the camera was like sky high, what would I be seeing? And then you can always put a camera down in the middle of it. But really it is a little bit more technically challenging, but if you know you're going into it, preparing for it, it's not that much more difficult than you would be if you're just planning on additional scene.
And it's a lot of fun.
And it's
So,
a lot of
you're
fun.
building an entire world instead of
Right.
just
Just a
a
chunk,
shot.
just a slice.
Or just seeing a frame.
Exactly. You get to see anything you want to see.
So far, everything that's in VR so far has been shorts,
Mm-hmm.
under 5 minutes or max 10. Do you envision a time when it could be 30 minutes, 60 minutes? 90
Yeah,
minutes?
I think there's definitely be long form VR content in the future. And as the technology gets up to speed, we have more capable devices for playing back VR, and it's just more comfortable, and the technology basically just adapts for that.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously we need content creators that come out and are able to tell compelling stories that someone's going to want to sit in for 30 minutes, an hour, or whatever that length of time may be.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it's definitely going to happen.
And one of the things though is that you'll eventually get tired of like doing this for 60 minutes. And so even one of the things we're working on is building kind of an IMAX style visual experience where you can sit back on a chair and you can be doing like this sort of looking, even just looking straight, but still your entire field of view is fully captured. And that might be another way where people can be interacting with longer form content in a VR sense without necessarily it needing to be full 360 degrees. Obviously you're just closing your ratio a little bit. That's pretty
Even
good.
keeping it at the full 180.
Yeah, basically at 180 degrees.
Yeah.
Would be good, yeah. Cool. I think we're out of time, so we'll.
Well, thanks. You've answered questions.
Yeah, I think the next presentation might be a bit of a train wreck.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Cool. Thanks, guys.
Next presentation is Robert Crosby. He's going to be doing Blend4Web for Blender game creation. And I just want to check. I see that we've got some folks. I think David Barron is coming from our Amsterdam group. So I see there's other cities coming online. Is Tux from Oslo on the line at all? Tux, if you're on, go ahead and unmute and let us know. Otherwise, I'm going to let Rob Crosby get going, and we'll go from there. So let's see. You had a presentation.
I didn't really have a presentation. I was just going to show you.
Oh, okay, that's right. Okay, so here's, I think this is, yeah.
So we need to open Blender and try to install that plugin.
Oh, geez. Let me just, hopefully. Yes, good. I have Blender 276. No, I don't. Oh,
no.
Okay. Do you have Blender on your thumb drive or no?
No.
Okay, sorry, man. Let me
No, that's fine.
You want the latest build or released?
No, I could show you this one website I have. If you go back into that file.
Okay, let me get this downloading in the background.
Yeah, we're not gonna have time.
Alright, save link as download Blender, stick it there, and then get you back to here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you,
It's all yours. I'm going to grab this seat so you're on the camera.
All right. Now, is there a way I could? Yeah. Yep,
Allow live content. Yeah.
Where are you?
Oh, all the way to the left, and then drag that window to the right.
So unfortunately.
Drag the window to the right. There you go. Now
Okay.
All
right. So unfortunately, I'm not able to actually show you the game. But This doesn't want me maximize. Anyway, so unfortunately, I'm not able to show you the actual game because I need to have the Blender plugin working on Blender to actually show you it. But here's actually a standalone HTML file that is running the engine for Blend4Web. So a little background with Blend4Web. They're a group based in Moscow, Russia. They developed this pretty awesome plugin and WebGL engine. It allows you to be able to build up a scene in Blender and be able to export it out to their engine and be able to display that content with their engine on a web page, as you see here. So they provide this pretty awesome plugin. Allows you to build out these scenes, export scenes to their WebGL engine, and then you're also able to not really going there. Well, you're able to export these scenes out to your WebGL engine and be able to add in custom coding to it, essentially JavaScript. Anything you'd be able to do on a web page, you'd be able to do in their engine, and be able to build a game or interactive web page, and allow for all kinds of very interesting content that could actually add to a website or have a standalone game. Oh, here we go. So here's their website. Unfortunately, I wonder if there might be something on here I might be able to show you that's interesting.
It's a good question. So do you know if their engine's mobile?
Yes, it works with mobile. It works with mobile. I tried looking into getting Google Cardboard or other things working with that. They do support things like can't think of them right now. They're not able to support the mobile stuff yet, but I know they're working on it. I know they support desktop with Oculus and several other VR headsets, and but yeah, it does run on mobile, and you're able to handle touch inputs, but you're actually a lot more constrained with what you can actually show in there. There's less, much less triangle counts that you'd be able to actually display on there at a reasonable frame rate. But yeah, so this Blend4Web thing right here is just a very simple scene I just put together.
That's cool.
So I essentially just put together a scene, put together the materials, like the transparent material for the water, and pretty much just hit export to HTML, and this is what you get.
And this is Internet Explorer?
Yeah, I'm surprised this is working.
Oh, we got Chrome on the machine too.
Yeah.
So
How do you look when you're interacting with it like Janus?
Janus?
Janus VR? It's like it's a VR web browser.
Oh yeah.
Like,
I
how
don't know.
does it look? Like, how would you interact? Can you walk around in it, or?
With WebGL, right? Sorry, with Blend4Web, you mean, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's been messing around with Janus. It always just freezes up on me. All they have is their main room. I can't really do anything cool with it yet. I was wondering, like, if I had visited your site, could I actually walk around in that world?
Not yet. I don't know anything about support for Janus, but they do. I know they do support Chrome, Firefox. Most of the big browsers out there. If I understand, there's also WebGL 2.0 support. Yeah, 2.0 that they can actually enable in Chrome with some cryptic stuff. If I understand, but it allows you to do a lot more interesting things with the render pipeline.
is it the materials that you use here? Are they Blender internal? Or are they cycles? Or
so they actually it's kind of different. When you go to I really wish I had it running on Blender right now, where I could be able to show you. But it actually shows up as another option for a renderer. So instead of Blender internal cycles, there's actually a whole other option for Blend4Web. And it actually changes a lot of the tool panels on Blender. For a lot of these, for different options for how to export objects and such. Are they working as a physics engine? Are they working as a trigger? There's all kinds of stuff that you can be able to do with this, and there's as well as some more logic editor stuff, where node editor, where you can be able to place out the logic of what the application's doing out in nodes. I haven't really had much experience dealing with that, but that's all available through Blend4Web as well. And in terms of materials, they're pretty much almost very similar to the Blender internal, but from my understanding, you have some more options since you are exporting out to a WebGL. You are a little more constrained, but I believe there's some more node stuff you'll be able to do with those as well. So it's very similar to the Blender internal. That's
I'm looking forward to putting on some VR goggles and hanging out on that island.
yes.
That looks pretty cool, man.
Yeah, thanks. So, yes.
So when you talk about the materials, I have no experience with Blend4Web. Do you have to design your materials in using Blender internal engine, or can you do it in cycles and it automatically converts into what's useful by the?
I don't think it's compatible with Blender cycles.
Okay.
Like I said, it's a whole nother. It's like, you know, at the top of the Blender, you have to be able to select between internal cycles and Blender game engine, and activating the plugin actually adds another item in a list for Blend4Web. So it really does change the whole UI of Blender to allow you to work with exporting to this particular engine.
So I guess with that in mind, if you're designing for Blend4Web, you kind of want to do that from the beginning of your workflow instead of trying to convert.
Yes. And I haven't tried doing that yet, but it would be interesting to see what happens. But from our side, they do have a interesting node way of doing textures as well. I can't remember. I'm not sure if Blender internal has that as well. Do they? No.
I think so.
And what else was I thinking?
While you're thinking of that question, hey, if Tux Solbach from Oslo is on the line, unmute and speak up so we can know you're there. Okay. Otherwise, you're good on time.
Yeah. Well, it kind of fell apart, but
You're fine, man.
so I am surprised it's working on
Yeah, Internet Explorer.
Internet Explorer.
Do you want to try and get it working with Blender?
Sure.
I bet you Blender download it. Let me do like a quick check here. So let's see. Blender, this is latest build as of today, which is I probably should have gone with a release build, but you know, along the themes of our high risk presentations here.
Who knows? Maybe the plugin might not work with the latest version.
Right. So we're just unzipping, 7-zipping Blender 2.2. Oh, it's called 2.77.
What?
What? So this is straight off BuildBot. I know we're at release candidate 1, I think. Is it 1 or? It's a release candidate, so they moved from test build to release candidate. So the timing of our meeting is excellent.
Wow.
We try to have these meetings about once every 2 months or so, because that seems to be the Blender release cycle. And so we hope for a new version. We know that they're going to slow down development to try and get some big features in, and that's all right. But yeah, wow, we might get our first look at 2.77. Huh? Okay. Anything else you want to say while we're waiting?
Is Blend4Web, is that built into, obviously we're doing 2.77, but is that, when did they start bringing that into the branch?
I believe from understanding, it's completely separate from Blender development.
That's completely separate.
Yeah, you pretty much have to download their SDK, which is, it's pretty interesting how you work with it. It actually, you download the SDK, and inside the SDK they have the Blender plugin. But like I said, it's a whole, there's two parts of it. There's the web engine and the Blender engine, or the Blender plugin, I mean. What's interesting is when you actually install the Blender plugin, you can actually set it up to actually run a local web server using Blender. And that allows you to actually open up their like a project manager on like website, in a website form, all locally on the computer, and be able to create projects, and it would actually populate the directory of all the web, like the style sheet, the HTML file, the JS file, and get your projects up, and even create a new Blender project. And the problem is with the more advanced with the more advanced projects, you have multiple files, and opening up just the one HTML file is not going to work because you need an actual web server to actually be running. There's a bunch of security stuff with web browsers that doesn't let you open up multiple files, locally on your machine. You have to use an actual server.
So thanks, Robert. Appreciate it.